Hey folks, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Billy Kihei as a recent graduate of Georgia Tech with us today. He graduated in electrical engineering. His doctorate work investigated new signal processing techniques for vehicle-to-everything networks, generating over 11 publications in prestigious wireless communication conferences. As an active researcher and full-time consultant in the connected vehicle industry, Dr. Kihei continues to assist connected vehicle deployments and regularly speaks at industry events. As a white hat cyber safety advocate through the organization I Am the Cavalry, Dr. Kihei brings awareness of vulnerabilities in a connected world. So with that, let's welcome Billy.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it still morning? No, it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, as I transition this to the HDMI output, there it is. We're going to talk about cybersecurity, automotive cybersecurity in a 5G world. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm actively involved as a consultant, independent consultant in the Tampa CV pilot. I'm an invited speaker to a lot of industry events, especially in Europe. 5G is going on big over there. I just returned from a 5G automotive conference that was in Köln, Germany, and that was really impressive. The telcos are pushing everything forward, trying to get the cars to talk to the networks. And also I'm a cyber safety advocate. Cyber safety, you're going to hear this word a lot through this presentation, with a grassroots organization called I Am the Cavalry. It's a bunch of white hat hackers. We're not formally incorporated or not-for-profit. We just go out and we tell people in the industries to get on board with cyber safety. So for you all, I want you to understand what your reality of your profession is in a growing 5G connected world, that you need to employ more white hats into your product life cycle. And I want you to think like Steve. I'm going to introduce Steve to you. He's a hacker in this presentation, and he's your adversary. So let's talk real quick 5G stuff. Phone's been progressing and getting better and better. Communication networks getting faster. But what does all this mean other than just cool see-through phones that bend? We're kind of seeing the progression go from analog voice, then it went to texting and data, then it went to this thing called mobile broadband in 3G. That's where you could get the internet on the go in your nav apps. And then 4G, we had Netflix, right? All to our phones. So what is 5G looking like? It's crazy, actually. It is massive. 5G, the big incentives and the big drivers are to make the pipes bigger, make them shorter, put a lot of pipes out there, and make them more robust, and make them very flexible with the type of data that's traveling across those pipes. So if you want to look at the types of network traffic, you may have seen a graphic similar to this before in other 5G presentations. But it's basically like this. The network traffic, when we talk network, we're talking IP network. It's progressively going up to not just user content through digital media, digital streaming, but machines are going to be entering the networks. Lots of machines. They're going to be transmitting a lot more information, more than us downloading 8K Netflix movies, okay? We're talking a massive amount of connectivity, massive amount of information pushing through these networks. But here's a problem, okay? Our dependence on connected technology is growing faster than our ability to secure it. Hence, folks like the I Am the Cavalry, it's a great network of white hats. We basically really promote cyber safety in medical, home automation, automotive, and public infrastructure. Any place that is keeping people alive and safe, but you have a wireless or internet connection to that person or thing, we need to secure it. So this may be how you and I've envisioned the future car like this. You know, the whole mobility as a service, flying taxis have recently been demonstrated around the country, around the world actually. So this may be how we see it as professionals, but this is how Steve sees the car of the future. Okay? 3 W's: wheels, wires, and wireless. And also us. We're a part of this ecosystem, this system, which is hackable, okay? The point is that any capability that can be used to preserve life can unfortunately be used to degrade life in the hands of the adversary. sobering thought. Let's look at this a little bit. All right, there's lots of different new attacks coming out, okay? These are not just your denial of service types of attacks, okay? These are serious attacks, attacks that have broken technologies that have been around for decades, and we thought they were pretty secure. So this May, I'll be very grateful to God to be able to present at Hack NYC this year about jamming attacks in V2V networks, in cellular networks, and critical infrastructure GPS. So thanks to ITS Georgia, I went to ITS World Congress last fall. And, you know, they're doing connected car demonstrations, so I took my laptop out there, I took my little equipment, you know, and I said, hey, I'm going to capture some packets and see what's going on, okay? Very cold, by the way, up there. So I went back to the apartment, did some tests, and then you can kind of prove very simply with a very simple jamming signal. Okay, here's the actual V2V signal, there's the jamming signal, and there's the two signals together. You're going to see this drop out. It kind of weed it out a little bit. But super easy, super effective, and you can use things like this, software-defined radios. I used it a lot in college, okay? But yeah, you can program these things, super cheap, less than $300, simple antenna, and you can take down networks. Okay, and also recently there's been research about using these software-defined radios to actually break 4G LTE security, okay? So the attack works like this. Now 4G, they typically have like these temporary identifiers, okay, from the cell phone. So it's throwing out these temporary IDs, and you're supposed to not be able to track these things or grab them. But if you fake a base station, you can actually just do a denial of service attack first. Okay, it's a layered attack. You deny the channel access between the car and the base station. And then you make the cellular modem drop back to a lower generation, like 3G. I don't even know if 2G is going to be supported anymore, but in 3G, there's more attacks that are more susceptible. So it's not about really breaking into 4G LTE security. It's about making it degrade back to a previous generation and using those types of attacks that work very well. Okay. Who's heard of the walnut attack before? It's a brilliant attack on MEMS devices. Okay. So MEMS, accelerometers. Okay. Move your phone, a little device in there, mechanical effect, creates voltages. Okay. Well, if you play a speaker next to it and you play a certain resonant frequency by it, you can actually generate a signal in the output of the accelerometer. So why is that bad? Well, you think about like autonomous cars, right? Drive around with these MEMS sensors and accelerometers for data, right? You can actually be streaming a YouTube video. This is what the researchers showed. They streamed a YouTube video that had a certain sound embedded into it, and it affected the accelerometer sitting next to the speaker. You couldn't even detect the sound was being played. Just Britney Spears. Okay. So how do you get around this? Well, you have to do stuff like putting acoustic dampening inside the actual chip. This is really a MEMS-centric issue. They have to figure this out so that you can't run this type of attack. Okay, social engineering. You know, hey, I got my debit card. It's posted on Twitter. Okay. Remember, user hardening, okay? You can throw out the greatest application or the greatest system out there, but if your users start with social media, start to actually post things that they really shouldn't, okay? Like, hey, we just reset all the default passwords, and they tweet that, right? You don't want to say stuff like that. Let's talk about how Wi-Fi got attacked. These were two attacks that were identified. And these were serious because people thought that this whole like four-way handshaking mechanism between in the Wi-Fi protocol, they thought it was really secure. And you know what? It is secure. I mean, theoretically, it is rock solid. But when you get into implementing it, okay, that's when you get into issues. So we're going to talk about things you need to look out for as professionals. So just know that one of these attacks was called Broad Pond. It attacked the actual chipsets. Okay, we're not talking about at the application network layers. We're talking chipset levels. How was this? What was the key exploit? Leak source code. Keep your source code in your office and behind a locked box. Okay. Crack. This was a big one that came out. Okay. This is one to where you could actually make Wi-Fi devices think that you are a legitimate AP, okay? But how was this exploited? It was through the implementation and the software, okay? Who's heard of Rowhammer? Rowhammer, brilliant attack, okay? So you see this these 5 lines here? That's the Rowhammer attack, okay? Basically what you do is you keep repeatedly accessing memory, okay? And on the chipset, in your memory chipsets, as you keep accessing those transistors and they're flipping bits back and forth, there's a physical phenomenon that happens. We can actually leak the bits over and they actually flip on the rows adjacent to them. Okay, there's no real intelligence behind this attack shown here, but they've actually proven that if you could actually get into the actual page memory, start to flip certain sections of memory, and then boom, maybe you've unlocked the I don't know, your VPN session or something. Okay. Okay. Also, we've had some. This is pretty known. Like you know, like when you have an application that connects to your car and you can find it or you can unlock it or call it over. Okay. Well, a lot of the big problems here is that you have tokens. Okay. There's these tokens that get exchanged. And if these tokens are being reused or they don't have a timer on them, then these can be exploited. Okay. V2V, basic safety message botnet. Okay, this was recently demonstrated. Very clever attack, very simple, and it can be done today. Okay, so what happens is this basically. If you look at the BSM, and you know it's 32 bytes for those of you who looked at the standards and stuff. But there's in the GPS and the positional accuracy and transmission speed sections of the BSM packet, there's actually some tolerance there. You don't have to fill it up all the way, okay? Which means that you may only need 4 bits and maybe 2 extra bits later, but those 2 extra bits, you can inject packets into that, inject your own information. So you can slowly build a botnet over 4 bits at a time as these cars transmit, okay? That was scary because, you know, everyone's touting the whole security credential management system of V2X technology, right? And it's this whole PKI infrastructure, and it's huge, it's massive, and it's all built in, it's supposed to be protected just to protect 32 bytes, okay? All that infrastructure just to protect 32 bytes. Don't forget that. Because as you're looking at this system and seeing how complicated it gets, so's Steve, okay? And he's finding all the weak points. If you're curious about reading best practices that are out there, currently this nation has no formal guidelines for cybersecurity in the automotive sector, but they have best practices, and a lot of good industry alliances have released these. But best practice really is, and good enough is not good enough anymore, okay? We all know the V, systems engineering, right? There's a problem with this, though. It typically happens around the verification and validation section, right? You have to do all your unit tests, and you have to test everything, every scenario. Finally, you finish, your budget is short, code works there, let's go put it out there on the system. But that's not how you're supposed to do cyber safety, especially with systems that involve people, us, and our families. So I'm the Cavalry. They were the first to release a framework. And what it does is kind of flips the V upside down. I want to walk this through with you. So you need to have your white hat hackers throughout every single design process that you're looking at. You also need to think about the deployed system first before you get into figuring out, you know, all the concept and brainstorming stuff. Just look at what's going to solve the biggest problems first. And then also you need to perform evidence capture. Be sure you can verify evidence capture, meaning that if someone hacks in, you can actually figure that out. And also over there updating each time. So again, the elephant in the room is software liability. As our dependence goes up, our complexity goes up, our vulnerability goes up, and our exposure goes up. So, as professionals dealing with ITS in a 5G world, if you can't afford to protect these systems, you can't connect them. Who agrees with me on that? Raise your hand. we cannot serve the almighty dollar with these systems. Okay? You have to get the people in there who know what to do, know what to look for, because they're called zero-day attacks for a reason. It means that you don't know they're coming. You never see them until they come. And they're out there, and people sell them on black markets all day long. So when you look at those best practices for automotive cyber safety, okay, this is what I boiled it down to. Everyone's starting to recommend security as a business directive. Your C-suites need to be like, hey, cybersecurity, we're all about it. We're going to lose money if we don't focus on cybersecurity. Dropping down, you can see that for your organization, you need to ensure that your suppliers are following cybersecurity type policies and protocols, that your customers are hardened, that they know how to use your systems, and even your competitors. You have to share exploits and vulnerabilities with your competitors as they share with you. And then going down further, you see the white hats are kind of the next interface between the actual systems that are deployed. And on the bottom, though, pay attention to the third-party service aftermarket. You need to make sure they're always going through a secure off-site interface, not through your back offices, through a separate office. Okay? And then what's the big sandwich in the middle? That's the actual systems, the actual deployed systems. Notice, employees as an attack surface. They sell towers as an attack surface. Your supply chain is an attack surface, believe it or not. Hopefully blockchain will help with that. Okay, so what are some motivations for cyber physical system researchers like myself? Well, some people do it just to be a hero. Some just want the pride. You get paid for it with bug bounties. But I want to focus on who are we defending against. These are people that are like script kiddies, okay, people that just find stuff online, and people that are bored, you know. Nation states, those are the big issues, though. And if you think they're not looking at systems deployed in Marietta, think again. People are targeting everything that they can, okay? Anyways, I prefer to know that they couldn't hurt us. So I want to go through a little story here. Got a few minutes left. Alfred's story. Who's seen Batman the Dark Knight? It's a very good illustration, okay, of what we're going to be up against in a 5G world. Alfred's telling the story about how he was chasing a diamond bandit in the jungles, okay? And they were looking for this guy, and you know, he was a really, really ruthless guy. And as they were looking for him in the jungles, they noticed that he was burning villages, burning trails all over the place where he went. So as they kept following and pursuing him into the jungle, Alfred said he came across a little child playing with a diamond the size of an apple. He was playing with it. What they had realized is that the bandit was throwing the diamonds just anywhere he wanted to. He was just getting rid of them. So Bruce asks, why would he do that? Alfred responds, because some men just want to see the world burn. Okay? This is the reality of a 5G world. So what will these cyber threats look like? Okay? 5G means 1 millisecond latency, super fast. But to 5 Steves working remotely across the globe, that's the fastest malware delivery we've ever seen. Okay? 10 gigabyte speeds, wow, that's the most persistent threat. 10,000 plus users, oh, we're definitely gonna get in somehow if there's that many connections. And it's gonna scale large, and for everyone, it's lucrative. It's unmanageable, it's life-changing, and it's irreversible. Blowouts, urgency. Try to find a vulnerability in the software stacks nowadays. You can't. It's very difficult. That's why they're trying to do machine learning to figure that stuff out. One program? No, it's a lot of programs, and a lot of these programs are interconnected. And please remember, obfuscation is not security. It's worked in the automotive sector for a while, but it's a new day now. So even though while you're doing this and you're plugging in the red to the red and the green to the green, Steve's doing the same thing. He's figuring out what your protocols are doing. Who has heard of Nakatomi Plaza? Okay, awesome. Some Die Hard, okay? First Die Hard movie. Think of it This is a concept that's being used in cybersecurity right now. You got this big building, this big system in place. You have your user space, and you have your controlled access space, but you also have blueprints that were used to design those spaces. But there's a space that architects did not think about, and that's Nakatomi space. The spaces where Bruce Willis is blowing holes through walls. The space of moving through a building where he's climbing through the ventilation vents. This is how we need to focus on cybersecurity as professionals. How do we reduce Nakatomi space so that the attackers can only be in the spaces we expect them to be in? History has shown this before. Who remembers the city of Babylon? It's in the book of Daniel if you're curious, and it's in history books. Okay? Huge city, big infrastructure. It was glorious, but there was a river running straight through it. And the Medes and the Persians, they dug a trench a little further out when they were sieging the city. They diverted the water away, and at an opportune time, they walked in through the gates where the riverbed was, and they took the city that night. Okay? So again, had the Babylonians been apprised of what Cyrus was about, or if they noticed their danger, they wouldn't have allowed the Persians to enter that city, but even so, they came upon them. So, focus on your organization. If you were apprised of what Steve was doing, or your customer in danger, you would never have wanted Steve to be in there. Even though we have all these great things coming up, deep learning, blockchain, quantum, two factors, physical security. This is what's happening to Steve's mentality, okay? He's seeing all this digital infrastructure go up and up and up, and the walls getting higher, and people are getting more closed in. The attack vectors are going to be more primitive. It's going to be the easiest exploits ever. They're going to affect disgruntled employees. They're going to do more ransomwares. And they're going to do more phishing attacks. Watch the social engineering attacks go up, and also watch out for cheap, low-cost hacking hardware. Works every time. So, remember, you have to think like Steve, and I have little buttons here if you'd like one for you to go back to the office with. You can pick one up from me. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have a safe drive home.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Hey, Billy.
Yeah.
So, bringing that down to our level, which types of systems we work with here in Metro Atlanta, what are some of your concerns as far as how the cybersecurity could be compromised with, again, the GDOT and local government ITS deployments that we work with on a daily basis? And how could those be mitigated?
Yeah, honestly, it's mostly the economic drivers, right? You think city as a platform and Smart Cities 3.0, that's just a big cash register to a lot of the attackers out there, right? More ransomwares. That's why Colorado DOT got ransomware. It didn't affect their critical systems. The VDX system out there did not get affected. But if you can shut down their sales offices, or their procurement office a little bit, delay things a little bit, you can set a city back with those types of attacks. So yeah, there's going to be more for monetary gain, more than just people trying to just mess around with stuff. Thank you. Yes.
Just like maybe a comment and a concern in rebuttal of the premise of the presentation, which is the premise of the presentation is that everybody should be scared and very scared and perhaps be very careful and we all don't understand what was just said. And the consequence of that inaction is we continue killing 40,000 people a year on our roads. And I think that it behooves us all just to put this in perspective as to a cybersecurity issue sure has to be addressed, but in the context of rapid progress forward to improve our worlds, of which this might be a small risk, but the cost of inaction is much higher. So that was my reading of the framework of what we saw.
Great. No, thank you for that comment. You know, a lot of people will say out there that a lot of these attacks are very one-offs, you know. And to date, in your defense, to date, there has not been a single reported fatality due to a car getting hacked. Okay. Judge yourselves. Y'all are smart. Y'all have families. Examine yourselves to see that what you sign off on, would you be okay with it? That's all this presentation is really trying to say. But thank you for that comment. Any more questions?
I got one.
Yes.
So what are you saying? I mean, do we stop? Do we just stop right now, don't move forward? The hackers, just let them hack what they're hacking now and don't give them any more food to be crazier? I mean, what, or do we bring someone in like you to come help us with the system? I mean, I'm trying, because that was a very fearful presentation. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I believe in hackers, I believe in all that, yes. Yeah, and I believe you're good at hacking. I do. I have, my hardest time is that these people who have the time to hack, because, I mean, good grief, I have no time to even, watch television. So, I guess my question to you is, what do we do in this industry? You gave us all this stuff not to do, like be scared, be fearful, don't move forward any longer. What do you suggest we do? I mean, you mentioned getting the right people in, but who are these people?
Show your reverse V diagram.
Well, yeah, but you still, I mean, a typical
Yeah.
engineer, RJ, is not gonna know how to do that reverse diagram, then have to bring someone in like you or him, or,
Yeah, that's
well, that's what I'm asking, who do we go to?
security into the process.
Yeah, there are
Who do we go to? Who's the professionals?
plenty of white hats that you can get in touch with. A lot of great security organizations out there. Some are non-for-profit, some are just research organizations. Even Southwest Research Institute have a great cybersecurity program, Just,
You're certain that they're better than the hackers? 'Cause I feel like these hackers with all the time on their hands.
well, some of these white hats used to be black hats. I mean, they used to make some serious money off of it.
Well, and that's what I don't understand, is why don't the black hats move over to the white hats? I guess then they wouldn't need them.
Yeah, different motivations. I mean, some people are literally just bored, or they just don't care,
But I think one of your main things to take from is what you just said. No one has died yet, and that's a yet. But we also know in the transportation industry, you're taking a risk when you set foot in a car today,
Yes.
period. And that is like Ryan said, 40,000 people who died a year on the road. So we've already signed a risk. We've got a driver's license, we're in a car. It is one of the worst, I mean, it's a deadly thing. But fortunately for us, we have all these cars on the road and that gives us a job and we're trying to make things safer and, move through. So I guess I'm just, if somebody would show me that when the cars came out, or, when I was getting my driver's license, I'd probably be like most kids today and not get a driver's license. So I guess that's my question, is do we just stop? Do we stop moving forward? Is that the best thing to do?
I would say don't stop moving forward, but have awareness. It's like digital hygiene, right? Wash your hands before you eat, right?
But you can always get the flu. So there it is.
Yes.
There's risk. I'm just saying
Yes.
there's risk involved in everything.
And one more comment is that, yeah, hackers, white hats and cyber safety advocates like myself nowadays, we're becoming like the economists in the room, just all doom and gloom all the time. I'm very aware of that. Sorry about that. Yes.
If you look today, it's a good example of things that, are you gonna take your credit card or control that today? Since I was involved in the Anthem breach, could have been involved in the Equifax breach. In the last 6 months, I've gone through 3 credit cards. I've had 2 Dear John letters for credit card applications that I didn't know. I just turned 66 and I'm eligible for Social Security, but first I've got to go down to my mother's Social Security number, my father's Social Security number, preferably death certificates, to make sure but I'm not throwing anything out. So, yeah, you gotta go forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. Let me get one. Go. You.
I have a question for you, a little bit different. So from the automotive industry that you talked to, what has been the response to this whole car hack? Because the whole Jeep hack, as we know,
So, when they acquire firms like Argus, Argus Cybersecurity for to monitor their on-bus networks, it's really more right now just a kind of a show, just to say, hey, we're monitoring our network, our CAN bus. Bosch is already coming out with encrypted, Ethernet, FlexRay type of protocols that are going to replace the CAN bus as we know it today. So they are going to harden their network on the vehicles. The real issue is they're trying to make sure that when they put their digital payment platforms in there, like, so you can pull up to McDonald's and, order straight through the car and you pull around, is that those don't get severely affected. As far as the physical hacking and all that, they're watching that right now. So they are taking note of it and bringing white hats into the fold.
I guess that would be one of my other questions. So I know the traffic industry, and I feel like they do have people in place that assist them with these things to try to stay up to date. Although I understand these guys really, like you said, have nothing to do, and people in this industry have a lot to do. So they just sit there and, have fun with it. But, I mean, for cars, should we not, like, does that not go on the car companies? I mean, if I want to go out and buy one of these connected autonomous vehicles, and when my daughter turns 16, because they should be pretty good by then. I mean, I'm assuming there's definitely going to be, nobody's going to want to kill people in cars, so I would assume they would be hiring these great people, white hackers and stuff to assist with them.
So just pay attention that maybe in the next decade or so, you're going to see how we have 5-star safety ratings for cars? There's going to be a similar thing for cyber aspects, and that's going to be a driver for buyers, okay? You're going to see more products that have a cyber rating once they figure out these cyber ratings, okay? So there's going to be more economic drivers behind it. It'll be more in the public space.
Sorry, you just scared me.
No.
One last
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
Does all the industry in the car, for example, have the standard for safety rating or cyber rating?
No.
Yet.
Not yet.
So how can we, as a developing software, know how to test with all those to prevent all those hacks?
Yeah.
How can we? But I saw that you said that it takes like 100 something day to find out. How can we keep up with that?
Typically, you don't. It's just kind of the cost of doing business, the cost of writing software, is that these attacks and these vulnerabilities are just there. But you need to go through and comb them before you really push out those releases.
Like for example, the IM category, do they have like a standard instruction or say these are the things that you need to look at when you do your software, for example?
Plenty of white papers and industry groups that have put out best practices, frameworks, and checkoff sheets, literally line by line. There's some great resources out there.
Or put them on our ITS Georgia website?
Yeah, sure.
Since you probably researched them and stuff.
Sure thing.
Great.
If y'all have any more questions, can you stay for a little bit? He'll stay and you can ask him those, but
And
thank you
pick up a
very
button.
much.